Hello, people. Welcome back to more James Allcott. Just chilled out, Jimbo, chatting to you guys about games of football that he's watching. And we want to talk about a cracking victory for Man United and some real shoots of hope here when it comes to the momentum of Man United and how they can have a kind of bit of a duality to the players that they have on the pitch, but also how you can start to have relationships that kind of work for everyone. And that's what I thought was really, really good. One thing I will say, Everton, timid, poor, afraid, tentative, and all of that. But I think just wanted to talk about the tactical shape of Man United because I thought it was really, really interesting. Now, this was the kind of the setup of the team, right? But it wasn't this. And let's go to the average position to give you a bit of a flavour of how it all kind of came together. But I think there's some players here that having their partner with them, it kind of filled in gaps and it allowed them to kind of be that little bit closer to each other. And it made them so much better. And I thought it was something that I want to know, Man United fans, did you enjoy it? You know, do you feel like, yes, maybe just Everton were that bad? I actually think there's something in this. And certain players that you thought, how are you going to fit in, Xerxes in particular? I thought actually, sometimes, I think Dimitar Berbatov spoke about this, about like standing still sometimes can be just really, really helpful for the team. And of what we've just seen in terms of the lineups and that, the 3-4-3 that was supposed, or 3-4-2-1 that we're supposed to see. Then when you see the average positions, you can kind of get a better feel of where the players went and got the ball. And we'll come back to this because you've got Casemiro, obviously they're shooting downwards. Casemiro kind of just sitting in front here. And so, when we think of Amorim's teams, we think of just kind of a double pivot there. But you have that one guy, it was Hjulmund, who would do it, that sits there. And Casemiro was that guy, but he's been hurt in the past and not had that help around him. But it felt like where the players want to go or were allowed to go really, really suited them. And one player in particular. So that's Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes in the left channel had so much space to go where he really kind of wanted to, but also where he enjoys going. And Amorim spoke about this. He said, I'm kind of realising someone like Bruno Fernandes needs loads of touches on the ball. And I think you've found a place here where he can lead in a different way, which, again, I want to be wary of this because Everton were so bad. But in terms of the chemistry, you're not going to get to like the final iteration of what you want. But what you do want is to see if a player's going to kind of come in, you want a player that naturally wants to go out. And this is something that we saw. I saw some really nice pairings here. Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro, for me, felt like a bit of a pair. Casemiro and Kobbie Mainoo, who kind of stayed on that right-hand side, but also had that license to get forward a little bit more, which is what he wants to do. I thought Diallo kept that width, but is always going to drift inside, isn't he, a little bit? And you can see that by that blob on the edge of the 18-yard box. And then having someone like Rashford, I thought him and Diallo, lovely pairing there. But also Rashford and Xerxes. I thought those two played really well. And you can see from Xerxes here, just picking spots to sort of be a bit of a backboard, maybe suck in a couple of players to allow that space in behind. And the goal just after half-time was such a great example of it. And Rashford, you can see by the areas of where he's getting the ball, yes, he might be starting in that position, but he's being allowed to kind of play as an advance forward, but also to peel off into his wide areas, which works when you've got Amad Diallo going in the other direction. So let me show you what I kind of felt like I saw. And I've been doing this. Do this yourself. Watch football without the commentary on. You probably do this already, but I'm really, really starting to enjoy it. So you had Diallo looking to, bomb up and down. But as we saw, he likes this channel. He wants to come into this channel. And in terms of these different little partnerships, I thought it was really nice. Dalot struggled, I thought, in the game against Ipswich because he kind of really had to help. But actually, he was a bit of a decoy. He actually stayed quite high, but it was because it was allowing Fernandes just to have that little bit more freedom and have this channel to himself. And I thought he loved it. I'd love to see his running stats because I thought he was able to get beyond at times. I thought he had this lovely little moment here where he absolutely did Ashley Young, could have given a penalty there. But what he was able to do was to drop into this area here. Casemiro would shimmy across. Mainoo then had a bit of freedom to move forward. Rashford and Xerxes would come over to this side. Rashford might come over here. And so if Fernandes does get the ball, you've got a run in behind here, but you've also got a pass in here. If you want to keep recycling it, you can do that by giving the ball to Dalot, or he can give it to Casemiro. But at the same time, when Casemiro had the ball, If I can find the ball, there it is. When Casemiro had the ball a lot of the time, sometimes he would get done. I thought there was a control there because of the back three. I thought that really helped them out. Having this three here meant, okay, we can start again. But if you are going to have to work the ball around the sides, you didn't have to just keep playing this ball into Dalot or Dalot getting the ball here more often in the Ipswich game, let's remember. There's actually one where Fernandes would pop in here, which he kind of wants to do anyway. Dalot would stay here. He's never really going to get the ball here, but Fernandes then can get the ball. He can play it here. He can switch it across. He can drive and play that. He can take a player out of the game if he wants to go and do that. He can give it to Casemiro. Manu then's got that freedom from that double pivot. Casemiro can just do... what I thought for a second in terms of a pairing there was a couple of times where Casemiro got the ball, didn't even think and played it here. And Fernandes had just dropped off just that little. I thought it was really, really nice how he was able to do that. And so going back to that initial formation that you think you're seeing and therefore you're going, well, that's never going to work with someone like Xerxes. It actually wasn't that. So that 5 that we saw before in the first game where these two are supposed to stay here, these are definitely your 10s. He's so much more open to things, I think, that Amorim, than we're expecting. And every player needs to be able to kind of offer up 2 different elements. But having Fernandes being able to go, it meant that I think Casemiro, yes, was that defensive midfielder, but when they didn't have the ball, Fernandes will work back. He works so hard for the team. On the other side, you've got someone who's a little bit more mobile, let's say, in terms of stopping them. Now, Everton did very little. And I think still there's moments probably where this area, or sort of both sides maybe of that double pivot, and say something like this happened, might be a little gap here as well. Those half spaces for the opposition are going to be there for them against a better team. But Xerxes, I just really like that he, say Fernandes dropped in, Casemiro shift across, Xerxes would come here. Rashford then became that advanced forward, which I think he enjoyed a lot more. And Manu then kind of becomes a bit of a 10 here. Dalot rarely getting involved. I think in time you want Luke Shaw, so you've got a different option there. But Xerxes being that backboard was really, really helpful. And one of the goals, I think, as I say, I think it was the one at the third goal. What was really nice there is that Fernandes seeing a great pass, but Diallo kind of getting on the ball here. And as we saw, and I'll just show you again, actually, from those heat maps there, having someone that's going to work for Diallo, is Diallo's going to make that cut inside. And so having someone like Rashford who's then going to make the opposite movement is a big thing that Amorim always wants to get in his teams. And I think he's going to get it in this team. And this is an option when it comes to your squad and the amount of games they're going to be playing. This is an option for the team. And so Diallo getting the ball here, what was really nice was it allowed, in the moment, Rashford made this run here. And Diallo, if it worked out for him, he could have shimmied, got to about here, and then had his shot himself. Forgetting Arna, obviously. But instead, he was able to play the pass for Rashford, and Rashford was able to get his goal. And I think just Rashford having a partner in crime instead of, and I did give him that criticism, I stand by that criticism and not really working hard enough last week, but having some players around him to sort of play with, I think is something that he clearly needs. And so maybe an area where I was being a little bit unfair, whereas before, if we think about last week, I think Fernandes was on this side, I think it was Garnacho you were trying to put here, Dalot was here, and Rashford actually he's kind of left alone a bit here, and he's a little bit isolated. The way they played today, so much more fluid, so much more rotation to it. Bruno Fernandes, I think, is going to absolutely thrive in this position. And it's one where the ebb and flow of the team just work just that little bit better by having someone or having different profiles, right? He's going to stand still. He's not going to stand still, but at least you know where Xerxes is going to be. He's going to run in behind at times, but also I think the other thing that I really liked actually is by this starting position of this. Instead of Rashford being here and then going here, what you have got with Rashford is wheels. So if Xerxes kind of sucks in a couple of players and it breaks, you've got a player nearby him, but even if it goes to Diallo like it did for that third goal, Rashford is not going to get caught by anyone. Some real positives there for Man United. Obviously, shocking from Everton. And Sean Dyche, that's not what he needed. But for a lot of the question marks that we're wondering, Ruben Amorim has got a team there that I think are open to ideas. I think are enjoying it as well. Let me know how you feel about this one. Big game, obviously, next up against Arsenal. That is a proper test. but some shoots of hope.